Maritime Matters is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It is
Force.
very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
Pleasant good evening to you, our valued listening audience, and welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Our sponsors for tonight's show are One-on-One Pharmacy, also Island Care Pharmacy, under that same umbrella for all your medication needs. Check out my little cousin Shantia McBride and a lovely team at One-on-One Pharmacy, ladies and gentlemen. In Freeport, Island Care Pharmacy. In Nassau, One-on-One Pharmacy. Fill your prescription at the store or send your refills via the online site oneononepharmacy.com, all lowercase, all one word. That's oneononepharmacy.com. The three locations are East Street South in Nassau, Charles Sanders Highway in Nassau, and of course that's for One-on-One Pharmacy. And in Freeport, it's Explorers Way, and that's Island Care Pharmacy. We are secondly sponsored by Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. At BMC, we provide you with a full slate of ISPS maritime security services. We are also proudly sponsored in that, by the joint grouping of GBI pilots and Bimini pilots. These are a contingent of independent marine pilots that are making themselves available to provide maritime pilotage to any and all ships outside of the Nassau hub and the Freeport Deepwater Harbor hub. That means any family island, any private island, anywhere in the Bahamas where large ships want to come in or go out, they require a pilot, and the GBI pilots and the Bimini pilots are there for you. Tonight, we shall engage discussions on Abaco Shantytowns. We should also engage discussion on COP28. That's the Conference of the Parties. That's global warming, minimization, limitation, all the rest of that. Trying to reach net zero by 2050, trying to reach 50% by 2040, trying to make sure by 2030 a lot of measures has already been put in place. And this COP28 is calling in all the parties to explain what have you done so far. So we need to know what the Bahamas have done. And of course we will delve deep into activities surrounding carbon credit implementation worldwide and in the Bahamas. Topics should include, therefore, the growing worries over large Abaco Shantytowns. And I know you all, if you haven't seen that Kai Cares video about how large these houses are and how massive the areas are that they're covering. And they just nilly-willy trying up house. No cesspit, no electricity. They're running their own little operation on land that even ain't theirs. And they're just getting away with it. So Brother Kai Mills decided, enough of that foolishness. I am going to expose you. Now they are exposed. But you know, I always ask, because somebody told me some time back, just know that the government is aware of every single shanty town in this country. Every single shanty town. So because Kai did that, doesn't necessarily mean that the government wasn't aware or the authorities were not aware. It only bring it to the forefront and kind of embarrass not only our government, but our country. All of us should be embarrassed. Why should we be embarrassed? Because we have laws in place to say this, a house should not be built without, first of all, getting the necessary building control permits. Secondly, thirdly, fourthly, without a proper cesspit, without proper running water, without the environmental concerns, the electricity concerns, the plumbing concerns, and all the other goodness that you have to get approval for by way of plans and by way of inspections whenever you're building a house. So if you're putting up a structure and you're not getting any of those, there's no way that structure should remain. You can't get away with it. I can't get away with it. So why other people can come and get away with it? Oh no. Enough of that. Thank you very much, Brother Kai Mills, for that Kai Cares video. You've been sending them all the time. I was wondering what happened to you, Brother Kai. I said, boy, Kai looked like he quiet down. But when I saw that one, it really made me realize my boy ain't scared. He ain't calmed down. And I know many more to come. So keep them rolling, Brother Kai Mills. We got to get our country back. Why is this proliferation of unregulated buildings being allowed to develop even here in 2023? Why? We know slackness, right? Slackness is what it's all about. Is the government aware of these growing communities? Oh, come on. We know they are. We know they are. Is there a schedule to have them all eliminated? I don't only want to know you planning on eliminating them. You don't do one. Well, by the way, one was supposed to be done today, eh? I need to go check tomorrow to see if All Saints Shantytown was actually demolished as we were told it will be today. It didn't happen when it was supposed to happen, but now they say they can do it today. Let's go tomorrow, people. I will personally go in the back there and check to see if All Saints Shantytown, that's right off, what the road name? Hatchet Bay, not Hatchet Bay, Golden Isles Road. That's the road that goes, and when you reach there, then you got a track road to keep going, and you will see that Shantytown, that, well, I don't know if you'll see the Shantytown anymore. I hope you don't see the Shantytown, because today it was supposed to have been demolished, according to our daily papers. Which entity devised this schedule, or is holding the schedule, or is responsible for putting together a schedule of when each shantytown will come down? We said in a show couple weeks ago, I said, you know, if they put one shantytown per week, some shantytowns may be 3 or 4 months away, but they will have ample notice because they could see the schedule and they know when their shantytown coming down. So they ain't get no excuse as to why they wasn't prepared or why they still there. But ignorance is no excuse. That simply means, and you know what? Signs are going on these shantytown buildings all the time. They seeing signs telling them this shantytown is going to be demolished. Please get yourself out of the way. Get your things out of the way, whatever you got in there. You know, in some countries they'll be voicing that, you know. Some countries will actually come there and they will lock up who is illegal. They will lock you up without question. And then, time is they ready to demolish the shantytown, they ain't gonna worry about nobody being there because everybody can get locked up. But you know, be nice. The Bahamas is nice. The world is watching us. We have to be nice. We know that those people are brothers and sisters. And, you know, we have no problems with that, them being our brothers and sisters, because we know better than them. But you know what? If we can't do it in our own town, what make you think you could come here and do it and get away with it forever? Minister Clay Sweeting, the one that I have so much respect for all of a sudden, because he actually demolished the shantytown in Cool Acres. I don't care what people say, but oh, well, you know, they had a fire. Yeah, they had a fire, but they got demolished. Whether you have a fire or not, you got demolished. He said he was going to demolish, it got demolished. He said we're going to demolish All Saints. I'll tell you next week if All Saints was demolished, because I'm going there tomorrow to check. So we on the roll, we moving. Now when are we going to get to Abaco? Should the authorities pay attention to Abaco prior to dismantling most of the shanty towns in New Providence. First of all, show me a schedule for New Providence, man. Make that public. Let us and them know that based on this schedule, once a week, we come in. Now, you know the list. The authorities know where all are. So list them and give each one of them a date. The same date is Tuesday of every week. There's a different one we're going to take down. And then we will make a list for the family islands. And we start with Abaco. We ain't joking. We starting with Abaco. Then, of course, we're going to Eleuthera, we're going to Exuma. Who else? We ain't need to go Long Island. We ain't need to go Crooked Island and Auckland. We ain't need to go Inagua. We need to go Megwana. Because they cannot assemble in those communities because they will be found out immediately and they will be detained. So we go into the big ones where they like to settle and we can clear them all out because our authorities know where they all are. Yeah? So we'll press on with the no tolerance attitude. Right, Minister Clay Sweeting? That's what I'm talking about. We can rid this country of these unregulated communities. Whether they be Bahamians in them, whether they be foreigners in them, they are, what you call it? They are unregulated, they are unsanitized, they are on everything else. Mister, you ain't listening. I know you like get on my case. They are on everything else, and we can deal with them. Okay. Second topic, we have experts calling for greater role for the ocean at climate talks. Now we got COP 28 coming up, people. COP 28 starts on the 30th of this month, I think it is. That's 2 days from now. That's what? Thursday. This one is going to be in Dubai. And it's only 2 days away. All world leaders, they call it, what they call it? Conference of the Parties. That's what COP means. So Conference of the Parties, and the parties is all the countries that are affiliated, which is almost every country in the world, with this climate change, this heating up of the planet, moving towards getting the planet in problems. And, you know, we didn't explain how the poles will melt if it get too hot up in those areas. The ice will go into the ocean level will rise, and countries like the Bahamas will be in plenty trouble, right? And if it heats up any further, it gets even worse, and any further, it gets even worse. So the balance of nature will be disturbed globally. That will be a big problem for us. So we got to do what we got to do, and the Bahamas plays a very integral role when it comes to trying to keep this earth from being swallowed by water, right? To keep this earth from being so hot that we probably wouldn't be able to survive. Because if we keep going up, that's not good for our skin. It's not good for our taking in hot air instead of temperate air. The whole world is a balance for us to survive. And if that balance is offset, we don't know what we got down the road. We have offset that so far, and we have this earth heating up because we made engines. We want everything fast. We want everything easy. And in doing that for all of those years, we put a lot of carbon in there, which traps heat, which stores heat. And what is blocking the heat when the sun heat up the earth from escaping and trapping it around the earth and causing the earth to get hotter and hotter and hotter every day. That's what's going on. That's what this is all about. And there's only one way to stop it. You stop it by stop the emission of carbon. You know they can do it with cars. We know they can do it, but they're doing it now with ships. They're doing it with cars too. We need what they call alternative energy sources that are more natural, that will not put carbon in there, right? And we're talking about burning different type of fuel to create energy, like using methane, using natural gas, that type of thing to severely reduce the amount of carbon being emitted on Earth. And of course, we got the big sun giving us solar that can convert heat energy stored in batteries that will be able to service what we need to do. And so we can get away, people, and by 2050, I can tell you, we probably will have gotten away from all that fossil fuel that we now using. Now you have some countries who don't want it to stop. You got some businesses that don't want it to stop because big money being made. You can imagine now. It's 2040. And all the money Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Qatar, Kuwait, all the money they're making, these billions of dollars that keeping them so wealthy. Even Dubai, they're no longer making that because fossil fuel has been reduced to the extent where it's very cheap because there's no more demand for it. Because most people have shifted, most entities that need power had shifted to solar, methane, corn oil. They shifted to things that don't emit carbon. And then our world will start to clean up because the seagrasses in the Bahamas will continue to take carbon out of the air at record pace, 35 times faster than those forestry, and keeping carbon trapped under the sea, in the banks, under the seabed, and they trapped there for thousands of years. And this is why the Bahamas is so critical in this whole operation, because for the past eons, the seagrass on the banks of the Bahamas was sequestering is the scientific term, and I'm no scientist, I'm only reading this stuff. Sequestering the carbon out of the environment for the whole world, because we got about 25% of seagrass in the entire world. A little small country, they call us a dot, but they can't call us a dot when they're looking at them big banks. Do you know that when the space shuttle went into space, astronauts would have looked back and they look for two things to know which part of the earth they're looking at? Two things. The Great Wall of China, and if they don't see that, you know what else they look for? The banks of the beautiful waters of the Bahamas. Because I always wondered, I said, why in the Bahamas stand out even in space? What about our waters that is different from waters everywhere else in the world? But it ain't water. Guess what it is? It's our carbon sink. It's the fact that those seagrasses are storing carbon in grave quantities under the water. And so when the sun shines on our carbon sinks, it reflects right back up so you can't miss us. And you know what that is reflecting back up? That's the sun ray, but guess what else? It's reflecting from our carbon that we are storing. That's going to make all of us millionaires and billionaires. And you know, our governments have to get a little aggressive with this. We're not, in my opinion, we're not aggressive enough. Because if we are saving the planet, you can imagine if this was some other country saving the planet like this, and all this time they ain't getting paid for it. Now that it's critical, the world must have it done. The world is depending on it. This is time to cash in on what your seagrass, meadows, your banks is doing for the world. We don't owe the world nothing. And this Mother Nature at work, but it on our property. We own the Bahamas. We own these banks and salt marshes. Well, not salt marshes, seagrass meadows and mangrove forestry. They belong to the people of the Bahamas. Governments come, governments go. The people don't move. They belong to we, the people. Boy, look, again on running on a little while now, because I can tell you, we the people should be the owners of our seagrass meadows and our mangrove forests forever. We shouldn't be going in business with nobody else telling them they own some of that. Like how we did with BTC a couple years ago. Like how we did with the cruise port in Nassau just last year or very recently. Giving it away, but that belong to the people. We can't let them. You could come in and we could hire you to be an expert and we'll pay you high. But let me tell you something. Our seagrasses, we don't want nobody else, have no ownership in them. I don't care who you are. That belongs to the people of the Bahamas, and that is the way it should always be. We can carry on, or we need to carry on, like how we carry on with our airport. We hired in a company from Canada to manage the airport. We didn't give them no shares. We didn't give them no ownership. No, you come in to manage, we can pay you what you say you need, because plenty entities in this world to do whatever we need to do to manage our carbon. Okay, so I straight away. We can get into this a little further in a little while. But the experts say, the world leaders, civil society, and business representatives will gather at COP28 from the 30th of November to the 12th of December. On 12th of December, that's my sister's birthday. Catherine, girl, you're getting old. That's Catherine's birthday. So the 12th of December, they finish to discuss ways to increase the ambition of emission reduction while responding to the already visible climate crisis. So they're going to increase the ambition. We have to get ambitious because right now it's coming to crunch time and the earth is in jeopardy. So the ambition of the increase on emission reduction. You know what emission reduction means? Excuse me. Emission reduction simply means all of that carbon that is being emitted by way of fossil fuel, we need to reduce that. And by 2050, we need to make sure none of that gets in there. That's how the United Nations rolling. That's how the Bahamas want to be rolling. But we got to take care of our home base first. We have to make some changes within our country as well. With the vehicles that emit about 28% worldwide of the world emissions. With BPL that basically provides the power for everybody by way of burning fossil fuels. We need BPL to change their method of providing electricity to the Bahamas. Electricity don't have to be fossil fuel. Many countries have gone to natural gas, and the cost of electricity is even less when they're using natural gas. Why are we still using fossil fuel? I might know, but I ain't gonna say what I think. We don't speculate on the show. I just hate to see the Bahamas so far behind other countries when it comes to moving forward, making life easier for the citizens, making life easier for the entire world, and keeping the world cleaner. So we got to move to that. So what is the Bahamas' position on its emission reduction based on the pledges that was made at COP26? See, a couple of years ago, I think it was 2021 when we were at COP26, the Prime Minister of our country made some pledges to the world, just like the leader of all countries or their representatives would have made pledges to the world as to what their country is going to be doing by 2030. Right? And what you think the pledges, see, we wasn't talking too much about getting our money from our carbon credits. Well, that's a different topic and we can get deep into that in a little while because we got a lot of money to get. Ain't no Bahamian could be poor after this one. Right? So the promises that our Prime Minister made, or the pledges, was that electric vehicles would be the fleet in the government system. That means all the police cars, all defense force, prison, all the branches, customs, all the cars and even BPL and all them who the government have a degree of ownership, all vehicles is pledged that will no longer be fossil fuel. In other words, no diesel, no gas. No, they will all be electric vehicles. That's what our Prime Minister tell the world, right? By 2030. So we got 6 more years. Now, I don't know if he can still be Prime Minister. He possibly could. But if he ain't, I don't think another Prime Minister could take that back from the world, eh? No man, that done out there. So we moving now toward electrifying all vehicles. I don't know what they can do with the fossil fuel ones, because some of them still could be good. But we don't need to be bringing in no more fossil fuel ones, eh? And we need to replace the ones that are fossil fuel by 2030. And I think that's a good pledge. Because while we are a big carbon sink, where we sequestering all this carbon out of the air on our banks and in our mangroves, we also want to lend to less carbon being pushed into the air. So if we start, and the government could tell they could mandate that all vehicles, I wouldn't say by 2030, but by 2035, what they could mandate is by 2025, right? All vehicles coming into the country must be electric. No more fossil fuel vehicles coming in the car after 2025. Right there, you break the camel back, eh? You already set the stage for very little carbon emissions. Well, none from the new vehicles. And at the same time, you need to tell BPL, we also want to know that by 2027, 2028, you ain't emitting no more carbon. And guess what? We will have almost met our mandate of about 75% reduction in carbon emission. And we will come down to 50% if we do that, eh? So, Brother Prime Minister, Mr. Prime Minister, my good friend from Roll Avenue, we grew up in the same neck of the woods. Please consider putting down a mandate to ensure that 2025, after 2025, there will be no more vehicles allowed in the Bahamas or imported into the Bahamas that are non-electric. Not even hybrid. You can use hybrid until then. We want it to be electric. And the reason why it is so critical to have BPL move away from fossil fuel as well is because you know what happened to those electric cars? Every night they get a charge. They get a charge overnight so that they can run all day the next day with no problem. So if they got a charge in the night, that means they get pushing a plug. And when they pushing a plug, they getting power from where? From BPL. So we don't want to stop the cars from being fossil fuel, but still when they're powering up, fossil fuel have to be used to give them power. We want BPL to also come on stream and ensure that when they push that plug in, carbon being emitted from BPL to service to provide up that power or that charging. That's why it's so important for BPL, the country's sole electric or electricity supplier, to be able to be on board with this in tandem, on concert with the entire Bahamas, trying to meet the mandate, the pledge that the Prime Minister put out there to the world. And then the Prime Minister also said, we're gonna put solar energy on all government buildings. The government got more buildings probably than any other entity in the country, eh? So if all of them are solarized, and it don't have to be solarized to the full extent, just solarized in some areas, and while BPL coming on stream so that when it is solarized, BPL giving you, and so directly they can stop using fossil fuel. So BPL is the biggest part of this puzzle, because they supply the whole country with power, And they're using fossil fuel now, and that could be changed in a flash of an eye. We got a call on the line. So, I ain't give out the number yet, boy, but my caller, one thing my callers them know these numbers, eh? Caller, you on the line. Welcome to Maritime Matters.
Hey, Glenn, what's up, man?
Hey, Jerome, right here, partner. What's happening?
Well, I'm blessed, thank God for life.
Good to hear your voice again, my brother. Always.
Likewise, my friend. You know, I was sincerely waiting for somebody else to actually call it before me.
No, man, you're the man who know these things. You a lot of people wondering how come you ain't call yet.
Giving you the opportunity to set a good stage tonight, and truly, I was hoping for someone sincerely really to call in before me, but it is what it is.
Yeah, man.
As you were talking about BPL and solarizing
buildings.
Yeah, exactly.
And getting the vehicles to be electric and not fossil fuel.
There's an article in the Guardian. I can't remember which date it is, but it was, I think it's in the last week or two, where BPL is actually mentioning now that they're going to build, and I stand to be corrected on this figure, but I think it's a 25 megawatt solar energy plant will be coming on stream next year.
Usually they go in megawatts. But what type of plant would it be? Fossil fuel?
Solar energy.
Oh, solar.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Solar energy plant.
Yeah, but that's where we need to go. And you know the good thing about it, Jerome, is in our country we have so much banks. You know that you don't even need to put the solar plant on land. You could have a solar farm on the banks.
Right.
Because we got a lot of room for it.
What concerns me with those, of course, is when you've got bad weather, man.
No.
You handle those floating or in the water facilities when you got a hurricane traveling.
No, they actually anchored into the seabed. You could put them on the lake. Lake Kananam, Lake Kalani. You could put them on the lakes.
You're hitting something there. You know, if I may just quickly get to the rooftop solar. The whole world now knows about Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
SpaceX, Tesla, and rooftop solar.
Right.
When he first started his move, one of the first things he did do was to establish his company called, I think it's called Rooftop Solar, but in any event, a solar energy company. And his mandate was to put solar systems on roofs all over.
Yep.
It was in California at that time. And what he simply did was to lease the systems at a very, very, very reasonable cost.
Yeah.
To whomever. But the roof, the top of every building was being used as a power generator just by putting those solar panels up on the roofs.
That's right.
And see, it always would bother me when I would hear anybody say that we ain't got the area on Nassau to apply or to implement a solar farm.
Oh no, that's nonsense.
Say again?
That is nonsense. We got more than enough space to do a solar farm.
More than enough, because look at the stadium, for example. Why is not our national stadium right now being powered by solar energy? Why is all of that roof surface on top there not being used to power it and probably that entire sporting complex?
Well, there's no real reason why it shouldn't be. Look at the streetlights. Why don't we have solar powering every single streetlight?
I dare say by now we should have had all of our streetlights on this island solar powered.
Yeah, and the thing about it is the technology is advancing all the time. So when it was difficult to achieve this 10 years ago because the batteries cost so much money and the batteries were not as durable and that was
at least we could have been planning for it 10 years ago, even though back then we may not have been able to afford it. You see, forward-thinking people do not wait until something is affordable to start planning for it.
Absolutely.
You plan and you plan and you plan 5, 6, 10, 100 years in advance, and when the opportunities comes, then you have a plan in place to implement.
That's exactly the case, my brother.
We've done it sadly and unfortunately backward in this country. And I came across a video, and of course I only listened to the video because I'm not able to literally see it, being that I'm blind.
I believe you still see these things.
I looking at everything.
Indeed.
But Glenn, this video was done it featured a company in Stuttgart, Germany, I think.
Stuttgart, yeah.
Stuttgart, Germany. This company, this video, showed a solar energy plant that was producing solar energy systems, right? But the plant itself was powered by a 13 megawatt rooftop solar system.
Wow. The roof itself was solar.
The roof itself was solar powered, and it was producing solar power systems.
Yeah.
Now, why couldn't we and can't we be doing something like that in the Bahamas?
We could, and you mentioned the hurricanes and stuff that come here. You could have solar set up in a way that when bad weather come in, these things could actually collapse.
Yeah, exactly. Fold up and
they just collapse and go instead of being broad way to the wind, they be narrow way to the wind, so the wind will run right through them.
Right.
That's the technology we and the world is moving to that.
And rapidly too. Rapidly.
Yeah, very rapidly. But
now, you mentioned something earlier about how that the world is moving away from fossil fuels, which is true.
Yeah. The world has to move away from fossil
fuels. I wish that was already being reflected in the oil prices. The oil prices should be about $50 or less per barrel right now, but still, so much of this world, of this planet, we are still using too much fossil fuels. Just look at the prices, man.
Yeah, I think the impact of oil prices is being affected by the war in Ukraine and the disturbance in the Middle East. A lot of that have a lot to do with movement of oil, production of oil. But as what I think you will see, and what I'm almost sure you will see moving forward, Jerome, is as more solar and natural gas and methanol and them are being used, because now they're now making engines that run by these things. I can tell you.
Yeah.
As the more of them being used, the less fossil fuel will be needed, and the prices will have to go sky high because it will no longer be supply and demand.
So at that point, prices will not go sky high. Prices will dip.
They will drop severely.
And they will stay low because the demand for fossil fuels will not be there at that point.
Well, the world has gone to zero emissions by 2050. So by 2050, they wouldn't be making a dime off fossil fuel. and
they say the handwriting is on the wall, right?
Yeah, and the Bahamas could start making that money because we have all the ability to sell carbon credits, because we have a lot of carbon credits that. And even the carbon credits now, at a certain point, we wouldn't be able to sell it because there will no longer be a disturbance. The world is no longer tight on carbon, and people will have already changed their power system to they don't need no trade-off no more because they're not emitting any carbon.
But it's going to take quite a number of years, probably 50, 60, 100 years for that, I dare say, to happen. Because
no. You're looking at a 20-year. You're looking at right now a 25-year span for that to happen.
Really?
Yes,
you
because
say 20, I say 50 or more.
Well, the reason why I said 20 is because the United Nations have already mandated by 2050 there will be no more carbon. It'll be zero emissions of carbon.
Zero emission, but yet you're still going to have a lot of carbon in the atmosphere to be soaked up, to be taken out of the atmosphere.
Yeah, but the thing is, the Bahamas will only make money, right, of people buying our carbon credits. Now,
I agree.
So the part where we need the United Nations to pay us for the sequestering that is ongoing, we need to fight for that. Our government need to push that down their throat and make sure they understand we have to be paid for this. This is our property, and we are helping the world. We need to be paid. We're not only looking to trade carbons with people who need offsets.
The one thing I would give Prime Minister Davis credit for is that he's truly put the Bahamas on the carbon credit world stage in respect to us having the potential to help the entire world as well as to benefit from it financially that we can sell to the world. But the thing at the end of the day that we as people need to do, we need to become more aware as citizens, more aware of these opportunities. We need to have people who are in the know to honestly and sincerely teach the Bahamian population about these opportunities, and then encourage and support many sectors of this country to go out there and take advantage economically of these things, not just allowing a special handful of the special interest to go out there and haul everything up, because every time you see a new economy wanting to spring up in the Bahamas, sadly and unfortunately, those who have money seem to want to be the first in the gate, and sometimes seem to want to be the only ones in the gate.
Oh yeah, we are
That's
very
not right.
we are very selfish bunch, eh? We are a very selfish bunch, Jerome, because we like to show off. And if we find out that there is some wealth leaking somewhere, and we can just tell a neighbor, boy, look here, you need to go down there because some yeah, they got some stuff. They got some stuff they're giving out that you could really use. And they'll be like, if I tell my neighbor he got much money as me, and I won't be the fella with all the money. So we will step on each other's head just so we could look good, and our families can. We just have a selfish nature in this Bahamas.
Stepping on somebody's head might make you look good, but it's certainly not a good thing to do.
Yeah, but some people don't care about that.
Because God watches, and God, everybody can face God for all of them stepping on heads that they do.
Boy.
But, the thing I really wanted to really focus on, though, with this point, Glenn, is that you mentioned earlier about how that we the people, we the citizens of the Bahamas, we own this country.
But we own a lot of things that we sold, that our government sold from us.
Well, you see, because, I mean, we could go down that road tonight, but this ain't the show for that.
No, definitely not.
But the point you made is a good point, and I agree with you both. See, what I'm getting at is this. As the second section of the preamble of our country's constitution starts off by saying, we, the heirs and successors of.
Right.
When you are an heir to something, that means you have inherent right to benefit from, or something is coming to you from those who were before and died off. They left it to you, for you to enjoy, for you to have, for you to benefit from. That's what an inheritance basically means. And a successor means that you came after somebody who was before you doing things to benefit the country, and now you're coming behind them to benefit from it and to build on it for those who will come after you.
Well, that's
And so the thing is, as a successor or an heir to this country from generation to generation, the natural resources belong to all Bahamians. The sea grasses, like you were saying a while ago, our the aragonite, the whatever else out there, every single thing in this country. In other words, not only do we have responsibilities to be honest and respectful citizens and to take care of this country, but we also have the right to benefit from the monies that are made by those things being sold.
Yep.
And I'm going to constantly say that to my fellow Bahamians, because a lot of our fellow Bahamians, Glenn, I really don't, they don't seem to understand that they own this country. You are a shareholder, my fellow Bahamians. You are a shareholder, a share owner, a part owner of the whole entire Bahamas. It's 400,000 of us, just approximately 400,000 of us. So each of us has one share of 400,000 shares in this entity called the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Each of us has that. We own the country. You and I, as citizens, when we vote, we are operating as the owners of the country, telling the directors, meaning the cabinet, what we want them to do or not to do.
But Jerome, guess what the heirs and successors sat aside and watched happen and did not put up a big protest? I don't know if they protested at all. We watched APD, which was owned by the country, right? Arawaki. We watched.
You mean BPL? BTC.
No, APD, Arawak Port Development.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
So we watched that being so. The good thing about it is it was not being sold to any foreign entity. Right? But now, 40% remains with the populace. Right? The government got 20%, and of course, the private entities got 40%. Right? And then a few years moving forward, a private international non-Bahamian entity got 49% of Prince George Wharf. Just given away. But that never should. How could this country, how could we, the heirs and successors, allow an outside international entity to own 49% of how Prince George Wharf belongs to us?
The board of directors, meaning the cabinet of the Bahamas, never brought that to you and I as a people by way of a referendum for us to vote on.
No, but because it's not actually it's not a constitutional.
Without consulting the people.
Yeah, but it's not a constitutional matter.
It's not a constitutional matter.
So you only call What I'm saying is we now have the carbon credits or the carbon in the ground, right?
Let's not make the same mistake as
what is there to stop the government from doing the same thing with that was done with Nassau cruise port?
The port.
What is there to stop it?
Unfortunately, nothing.
Oh, well, I just trying to bring that to the attention of
unfortunately
you, me, and all the heirs and successors, that these things happen right from our our noses, and we not doing anything.
This is why, in my opinion, things like that should go to a referendum. If not a referendum, definitely a nationwide opinion poll.
Well, opinion polls don't matter, but you could go to a referendum only if you're trying to change something in the Constitution. I'm no lawyer, but that's what I understand.
But, I would actually like, and this may sound a little restrictive, but I would like it wherein governments would have to come to the Bahamian people when it comes to our infrastructure being sold to non-Bahamians, for us, the people, to vote on.
Well, we need to protest against it, because the government is going to try to do what the government want to do, eh? We, the people, we need to be able to protest like they do everywhere else in the world.
Not necessarily right in doing it that way.
But they're not trying to do it right. They're not trying to do it right all the time, Jerome. The government is not necessarily trying to do it right all the time. But we, the people, but if we, the people, sit aside and allow it, then they can continue doing it.
No, but see, this is why you have your show and you're dealing with this topic, Glenn, because I'm sure you're educating a lot of our fellow Bahamians out there as to what to expect, what to look out for, what to realize as Bahamians that we have responsibilities for, rights for, and obligations too.
But what I'd like to see, and it don't appear to me that it's going in that direction, what I would like to see is our carbon credits, or all our seagrasses and mangroves that this country can reap benefits from. I would like to see that owned, just like how the airport is owned by the people.
Yes.
And you bring in people to work and keep that going. Bring in the expats, whoever you want to bring in. I want to see our seagrass meadows and our mangrove forests kept in the hands of the people, and nobody getting those shit. Because if you're supposed to get $100 billion a year, and you give 49% to an outside entity, that means half of your what job somebody could do from the outside that would pay them $50 billion a year.
Something's wrong with that picture, Glenn. Something is wrong with that.
But that is the way we headed with this, Jerome.
But Glenn, see, let me. I don't know. I don't remember the name of the company, but there's a company that this government, the Davis administration, has already engaged to study and to basically package our country's carbon credit resources for the purpose of putting it out on the international market. I can't remember the name of it.
Well, there are two companies.
That company has been given 15%.
Oh, I know of a company that was given 49%.
Well, I know that one.
And then there was another one that was given 49%, and then the 2% supposed to go for what they call non-government organizations.
So that had to do with BTC.
No. I am not talking about BTC. I'm talking about carbon credits.
Carbon credit situation?
I am talking about carbon credits, my friend. And these things are in the news. These things are in the newspapers.
But that is so sad because I mean the country again. This is.
I don't know if it's written in stone. I don't know if it's already written in stone.
It is saying to you and I as Bahamians that other people out there are feeling as if we aren't worthy of benefiting from the resources, only them.
No, it's not. It's not saying that. It's not saying we're not worthy of it.
No.
No, you're right.
I'm not saying that we are not. We are worthy. I'm just saying that's the impression
that they give.
That people, the entities like that, tend to put off.
And we allow it.
And they want everything. They seem to give the impression that they are the only ones worthy of it, and you and I are not. But every Bahamian is worthy and deserving of benefiting fully from all of the natural resources of this country when it comes to making money from it.
Yeah, how could you give a non-profit international organization 49% of what your country owns?
I didn't hear. What's the name of that non-profit entity? Because
the name is Beneath the Waves, and you could Google it.
Oh, okay, yeah, I heard that name.
Yeah, they are earmarked to get 49%.
And what were they given 49% for?
For managing and doing all the rest of stuff to.
No man, that is
way
too much.
It's
all
in the dailies.
Whoever put that together, that is not right.
Well, we could look into it some more and hope the government would listen. But who's going to approach the government about it? If that is in fact the case, who's going to stop the government or tell them we got to look at this again?
To die from poverty and starvation before we really realize that we don't have to.
This is the way it happens.
People, I mean?
This is the way it happens, my friend. I mean, again, I could take you back to some of those other situations, and we didn't put up a protest. We just basically accepted it.
I'll tell you, and I'll only use this as an example with the BTC situation. There was a big protest against that. I'm going to use that as an example.
Yeah,
that Bahamians did protest. It's just that the government didn't listen.
I agree there was a protest for that one, right?
The government of the day just didn't listen.
I agree again.
This is why I dare say these things have to go to referendum because
no, but you can't take something to referendum.
The government to be bound to what the people want.
But you can't take something to referendum that is not violating your constitution.
Well, Glenn, if you ask me, and I hope to end on this note. If you ask me, essentially, what's this now? Essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Giving away 49% of the value of our country's resources is violating the spirit, the purpose, and the intent of the Constitution. Just read that first part of it.
Yeah, I will leave that with you. But see, you got to connect.
Any fellow Bahamian, just read it. You and I are not supposed to be deprived. We are not supposed to be. I can't remember. Oh Lord, I wish I could quote that preamble, but we are not supposed to be deprived in this country of anything to benefit all of us as a people.
We got to hear from Mr. Thompson. Mr. Thompson is the man who knows the Constitution inside out.
Sydney?
Yeah, we need to hear from Sydney. You have Sydney number? Call Sydney. He called the show a couple times before, but I haven't heard from him for a while. And Sydney could help us deal with matters such as these.
But Glenn, when you go to your break, if you don't mind, you just look at pull up the preamble.
No. I am aware of that. I am aware of that. But just looking at one piece of the Constitution without having a good grip of the whole Constitution, it's something like the Bible. You need to have a better grip than just one section. And somebody like Sidney Thompson has a grip on the Constitution, right?
No article in the Constitution has any teeth without the preamble, because the preamble is the foundation of that Constitution upon which those articles all stand. Just like the foundation of a house or a building is the foundation upon which the walls of that building stand. With no foundation, you got no sturdy walls or no walls at all. Without that preamble, those articles have no teeth.
You're absolutely right. I'm not gonna give you a kickback on that, right? Because what you're saying makes sense. But from a legal perspective, when you're dealing with the Constitution, I'm not sure, because I know a lot of international legislation deal with preambles, and they deal with the actual meat of the document, right? And the preamble is not really binding. And I think in a lot of cases I heard that the preamble of the Constitution is not something. It's not one of those articles that you have to do.
No. The preamble is not an article. With all due respect, the preamble is the mandate of the country upon which each of those articles stand.
Okay, my friend, I don't know much about those details.
The way walls stand upon the foundation of a building, articles stand upon the preamble. With no preamble, you've got no integrity, you've got no authority, you've got no life, you've got no purpose, you've got no intent as to what that Constitution is supposed to be.
I agree. So the preamble is definitely the backbone, and I think we're agreeing on that part.
And the foundation without which you really only have a dead piece of paper.
Okay, so we'll talk to Mr. Sidney Thompson. I will make sure I try to reach Mr. Sidney Thompson.
Tonight, but hopefully
we get back to Maritime Matters, but it's always good for these discussions, because like you say, people are listening and people are learning.
God bless you, man. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, well, I thank you for your call, my brother, always. We'll keep it together. Ladies and gentlemen, that was my good friend, Jerome Thompson, JT, a blind man. And we got another call on the line. We're going to see what our caller has to say. I hope it's somebody who could clear up that Constitution issue. Caller, you on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Yes, sir. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a doctor. I am just a philosopher.
King Arthur, how are you, sir?
Boy, I tell you, that fella going deep.
Yeah, man. He carried me overboard just now. I almost drowned.
He's down like the target shot with the scientists to discover our metals.
Yeah, Jerome is a ball of knowledge, man. That guy is knowledgeable, and you're a ball of knowledge. I see you put me in my place a couple of times. I gotta tell the rest of the Bahamas that you ain't easy.
You help me out one way and I help you out another.
Indeed, my brother. How it go, man? What's happening?
All right, let me ask you a question. You know anybody by the name of James Smith? Or Anthony Ferguson, or Miss Thurston, or Miss I don't know anybody names like that.
Those names are popular names. I can say I know them personally, but I know those names. Some of those names are popular names.
Those guys are the executive CEOs and the people that run CFAL. CFAL is a company I feel was entrusted with running this carbon venting for Bahamas. Now I'm not sure. I was doing some studying today, and I seen this sea falls and this Kalina something or another. It's going to be an investment this, an investment that.
No, I think what you're finding, because I've read in the papers where Mr. Anthony Ferguson has been put in place by the government to deal with our carbon trading and whatnot. There's a company, the name of that company that he is the chairman of, and I don't know who's the owner of the company, but he's the chairman of a company called Carbon Management Limited. He's the CEO, well, not the CEO. He's the chairman, and they have a board of directors. He's one of the directors, and I think he's the chairman of the board for that company. I don't know who's the owner. I think that company was really put in place to manage our carbon credits in the country. We need to know who owns that company. And
he's connected with big guys that own all the oil in the Bahamas, who does all the oil importation in the Bahamas. Well,
he's an investor. He's an investor that has done very well in his business ventures, right? And the government was seeking entities that can help set the stage to sell our carbon credits. So this company was formed, right? And this company have some board of directors who are people who understand trading, people who understand business, that type of thing. So I see nothing. The only issue I would have is that company needs to be owned by the Bahamian people, eh?
Okay, good. So that it don't be a company like PTC and the rest of them.
Well, right. the way I see it, how this thing, if you ask me how it should have been set up, right? And I think we should have had an authority, just like how we have an authority to deal with all our shipping registry, our shipping. We have an authority to deal with the airport. We have an authority to deal with so many different things, all the airwaves. We should have an authority to deal with our carbon. Since that has the potential to be so lucrative, form an authority, because all authorities answer to the government. All authorities are owned by the government. So if you have an authority, all the monies that are made from carbon will have to go to the country. Nobody will be able to have no shares.
Yes, Glenn, between you and me, right? Mm-hmm. Here we things go in the Bahamas, all right? We were supposed to dig at Bell Island, but someone came around with some money, and he was allowed to dig at Bell Island, and he's not a Bahamian.
Well, we don't know, but we know that laws are broken in certain situations, and continually. So, but again, if that's a private matter, there. See, we talking about carbon, man. We talking about something what is national.
Carbon he didn't dig up in Bell Island.
Yeah, but it's national and international. But they ain't dig it up to sell it. He can't sell no carbon. He can't get no carbon credits off the carbon.
He destroyed it.
Right? Yeah, I agree. But
so he should be allowed to pay.
I agree with that too. But all I'm saying is,
you know what I mean? There should be an authority, like you say.
We should have an authority to manage. Right. So
the act in the Bahamas of destroying our natural resources should be penalized with the steepest extent of the law.
So this company would name Carbon Management Limited, technically, in my opinion, should be an authority.
It should be an authority?
And that authority should be responsible, just like every other authority.
It should be
right.
set up. It should be a setup where the government has an in-between the government and that authority. Let me say that we can have more checks and balances.
Yeah, but all of
from the government,
all of the authorities
who is directly involved with these people, you know what I mean? Then there's a possibility for things not to go right. But if you got a watchdog in between the government and these people.
Well, the thing is, all of our authorities have a board of directors, and those board of directors are responsible to whatever minister from that particular area. And the board of directors are there to control the people who are running the authority.
Well, you see what happens, like the last government that was in power, and I mean in the ministers that were like put in certain circumstances, even though they didn't make as much as the properties that they were building after they left power. I mean, goes to say something. The money that was supposed to be for the people didn't actually go to the people, it went to these people. That's the reason why I say it should be an authority where there is checks and balances. Someone to answer the government and the port and the company that manage the grass and ship answer to another company in between. It should be something where we have checks and balances from both sides.
Absolutely correct. And let me tell you something, King Arthur. Do you know that the Nassau Cruise Port, Prince George Wharf, it was intended to make that an authority? That's supposed to be a port authority. And I remember Captain Anthony Allens was supposed to spearhead that port authority when he went to the port to run the port department. That's supposed to be turned into port authority, and that port authority would have been the custodians for Prince George Wharf. And when that company came in, they could not own anything out of Prince George Wharf because they had to do it.
All they would have to do is answer to the authority. That's what happens when you got a government dealing directly with the investment instead of in between the government and the investor. And taking care of business like that, you know, people that are in the government shouldn't be directly involved to say do this or to do that. All they need to do is give directions and wait for the feedback. If the feedback isn't done, then you know what I mean. Then you'll know how to manage things. You put people in place that you know what I mean. Every time they finish, they can walk around and scream.
Well, I may be crying over spilled milk, but I would like to know how we got from the intent to make Prince George Wharf or the port department an authority to the port department being kicked out of the port, and the port is owned 49% by an outside entity. How could we get to that?
I don't think they own it.
Oh no, they own it.
Listen to me, Jeffrey.
No.
So what I got is that is a 25-year lease.
Yeah, but
the 25-year lease is up. Then they could, you know, what's the name of it? The former prime minister. And I mean, I heard him say it is a lease. So I don't want no one to say that they own no 49%. So that means that if they did that, somebody did some skullduggery somewhere.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Maybe the term is wrong when I say they own it. Maybe they have it under lease for 25 years, like you say. But guess what? 49% of the profits go to them.
Well,
for 25 years. Yeah, but why would we need to give someone 25% of the profit of something that the country owns? And we could just bring in outside entities to manage that for us, like we did with the airport.
Okay, good. Guess what? Well, we need to put our heads together as a country, and fellas like you and the rest of them guys who got your $1 billion businesses and stuff like that, then we can come forward and bring the rest of you guys together, and then put a proposal to the government so that you know you can show them this is how.
Actually, it has to be the people, King Arthur. It has to be the people. What happened?
Listen, I have to go right now, but I would like to know who are the shareholders in this company.
Which company? Oh, you find out and let me know, please.
All right.
My brother, thank you for calling, and let's keep it going. Oh yeah, King Arthur, boy, that man has a lot of knowledge. He has a lot of passion, as you can hear, and it is what it is. But we, the people, need to look out for our country. If we, the people, don't look out for our country, then we can't expect, and as my good friend, Brother Marlon Johnson, always quotes Sir Lyndon Pinlin in saying, and I'll try and say it as I remember it, if Bahamians do not stand up and fight, take charge of their own country, then they don't deserve to have it. I know I say it right, but it boils down to we need to take a stand if we want to continue to own what is ours. And we want full benefits from what is ours. You know, that's the bottom line. And there are ways we can do that. But anyway, we move on. Boy, I don't know. Time, how come we ain't got no more time? I think at this point we better move to our one break, because we only got 20 minutes left. And when we finish with that one break, we'll come back and tie up loose ends. So ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Maritime Matters. The number to call is 326-8255 if you want in on this discussion. We're talking about carbon credits. We're talking about the Abaco situation with all the shanty towns, with the bigger houses and the bigger areas being used for shanty towns and Abaco. The shantytown that should have been brought down in Nassau. Today, out in the area just off Carmichael Road, off what the name of the place is, I don't remember offhand. I got it right here written down. But we're talking about shantytowns for the most part. That's All Saints Shantytown. We know that Cool Acres was demolished about 2 to 3 weeks ago. And that's, we think it's going to be moving. We see things happening, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed so that we can take back our country and not having people running amok and doing what they want to do and getting away with it forever. You're listening to Maritime Matters. Again, the number to call is 326-8255. On this show, we talk maritime. As we go to a break, ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Bean, your host. Stand by for return.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah. I'm sitting on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Just sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay. I've had nothing to live for, look like nothing's gonna come my way, so I'm just
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain, and tonight we had some good calls. Very heated discussion on shantytowns. The number to reach this show, if you want to call in, is 326-8255. That's 326-8255. Maritime Matters, where we talk maritime. Now we have to basically recap on what we were doing so far. We were talking about the large shantytowns being built in Abaco. We have some video from my good friend. Well, I don't really know Kai personally. I don't think he knows me personally, but I know all about him. Kai Mills. He do some nice Kai care videos. And he did one showing those lovely homes being built in an unregulated manner. And just kind of highlighting to the government that, look, we shouldn't have this going on. We need to do something about it. We know that the property in Cool Acres, where the shantytown was generated over the years, that has been dismantled. We know too, based on the dailies, that the shantytown just off Carmichael Road and All Saints Way, that was supposed to be demolished today. I can't say whether it happened because I haven't gone this yet, but I shall tomorrow for sure. So next show, we should be able to say to you whether that continued to stand or it was actually taken down. I believe it's going to be taken down. And we also said that we need a schedule. We need a schedule over the next couple months which shanty town we will be taking down or demolishing every single week. We'll start with New Providence. And when we get halfway through that, we'll kick in Abaco. But we'll schedule every single one of them. So from now, if you have 20 shanty towns, that's 20 weeks. Some people know they got 3 months. Some people know they got 2 months. Because you got to be gone before we come to dismantle your town, if it's illegal. And you should be happy to get out of there because you've been there for a long time on the house, eh? Time to go. And we talk a lot about our carbon credit situation, the mere setup of carbon credit. How is our country going to benefit? What's some approaches to making sure that we get our maximum returns for what is naturally ours? We talk about COP28, that's the meeting at the Conference of the Parties dealing with global warming, about to happen on Thursday. It's going to start and it's going to run straight through the 12th of December. Of course, we mentioned dealing with our carbon from the perspective of reducing the amount of carbon emissions coming from our country, and how our Prime Minister would have made certain pledges when he's at COP26 that by 2030 certain things will be happening, like all vehicles that the government owns will be all battery operated or as you say, electric vehicles. None of them will be emitting carbon into the environment. Said that all government buildings will have solar installed, maybe not to generate power for the entire building, but at least you'll have solar that's generating some of the power to offset what fossil fuel is being used by BPL to keep those buildings going from an electrical perspective. So tonight we're on a wicket to kind of look at where we need to be for 2030, where we need to be for 2050. And 2050 is a big day when it comes to to global warming, because the United Nations has mandated that by 2050 the world will have achieved zero carbon emissions. In other words, there will be no engine that is burning fossil fuel. It will be strictly be renewable energy and natural solar energy, things like methanol, things like natural gas, things that burn without emitting carbon. There will be no zero carbon emissions in 2050. So what's that telling us we need to do as a country? We are poised in this country to receive billions of dollars annually from our carbon sinks. Our carbon sinks is our seagrass meadows and our mangrove forests. Just by virtue of having those and being able to offset some of those entities that will still be emitting carbon and have to offset it. You can offset up to 2050. After 2050, you can't offset. So after 2050, the Bahamas wouldn't be able to sell carbon sink or carbon credits to these big companies like Apple and Walmart and you know, companies that have a lot of vehicles moving around, that have a lot of parts moving, that are producing a lot of stuff, they all got to buy offsets to offset some of the carbon that is being emitted based on their operation. So the Bahamas is really poised to be a benefactor to some of those offsets. And then again, the United Nations have some obligation to pay us for some of the carbon that we're sequestering out of the environment on a routine, minute-by-minute basis, right? And they have a fund that they have earmarked, and they're supposed to have anywhere between $1 trillion and $3.7 trillion in that fund. And it's countries like us who would be able to gain or reap from that fund for paying, for the world paying us for what we're doing to take carbon out of the air. And we know too that this is a window. This is not something that's going to be going on for another 100 years, eh? Because next 25 years, when 2050 reach, well, 27 years, when 2050 reach, and there's no carbon being emitted, what's going to happen? The Bahamas is going to continue to sequester carbon out of the environment, but no carbon going up. Excuse me. And not only the Bahamas, we got all around the world, especially around Australia and stuff, with all those, they got a little massive amounts of mangrove forests up in the eastern and western coast of the U.S. They got salt marshes in massive amounts that are, again, sequestering at a high rate. They got all the Amazon forests that are sequestering. So worldwide, carbon is going to be taken out of the environment. And if the world come to a stage or state where no carbon is being emitted into the environment, that balance would be regained. And once that balance is regained, then the world has no more need to be paying the Bahamas for that balance, because the world is no longer going to be putting any carbon into the environment. So there wouldn't be that tightness where carbon is heating, causing the environment, the earth to heat up. The earth will come back to normal, because the reason why all this is happening is because of those fossil fuel combustion engines putting things in the environment. So if that comes to a halt, shortly after, a few short years later, the world will no longer be in problems, and the Bahamas will turn like how the Persian Gulf countries will be turning in about 10 years, because the fossil fuel stop. People don't need the fossil fuel no more because they ain't using machinery with utilizing fossil fuel. So those countries are they're gonna maybe not be broke, but those countries will no longer be making the big, huge amounts of money they're making now for the fossil fuel. And 20 to 25 years after that, the Bahamas will no longer be making, because again, the Bahamas will be making money of entities trying to offset what they are doing by putting carbon in the air and paying the Bahamas to say, we're getting credit from the Bahamas for the amount of carbon, because they have to pay for the amount of carbon they put in there. The only way they could pay is by getting carbon credits from somewhere that is sequestering or taking carbon out of the air. And that's how that trade-off is going to work. But again, we're talking about a 25-year window, eh? So while we would be making massive amounts of money during that 25 years, when the time up, that massive amount of money could be gone. So we can't take it easy and say, boy, we're making hundreds of billions right now. We ain't got to worry about nothing for the rest of our grandchildren's life. No, don't work like that. We need to invest that well enough so that it will continue to pay dividends moving forward. And that's like saying to Kuwait right now, you're making all this oil money. You've made all this oil money over the past 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. What are you doing with this money so that when you're no longer making it from oil, it's still paying off for you? We don't have to ask that question for Kuwait, for Dubai, eh? Because we've seen what Dubai did. Those of us who've been to Dubai, we would have seen the Burj Khalifa, which when it was built was the tallest building in the world. We would have seen those two huge malls, which are the two largest malls in the world. We would have seen the first class 7-star hotels. We would have seen the Palm. We would have seen, we can see what Dubai was doing with that money. So they're now big tourism mecca because of that investment. So we, the Bahamian people, needs to look at, while we making this whole heap of money, whether we get all of it or percentage of it, we could be making money. How are we preparing our country for when that 25-year span is up and that money dwindles down? Are we going to be first world to the extent where the kind of facilities we have in this country, especially on our family islands, are state of the art and tourists just want to be there because of what we're offering and what the amount of things we could have done with that money? Are we going to build ports throughout the country? Just like our Nassau cruise port. But we're hiring people in because we can own our ports. We may have lost some level of income from the Nassau cruise port because, like my good friend King Arthur was saying, we leased out 49% of that to an outside entity who's now getting 49% of the profits. But we want all 100% of the profits. We're going to hire in the experts. When we come to Morgan's Bluff, we won't own that. We ain't trying to share that with no other entity. When we come to Devil's Point, Cat Island, we want to own that. When we come to Landreal Point, Cricket Island, we want to own that port. We want to own the port at Salina Point. Because these are stops that the cruise ships can make. And any cruise ship going in there, they will be more than happy if we make the port nice. But on the family islands, we ain't worried about the port being so nice because the people are so nice. There's no crime. There's so much tranquil beach. You know, many of these family islands, people go and pick the beach. And yeah, I see we're running out of time. No more calls. So I got to thank you very much, people, for listening to Maritime Matters tonight. I trust that you would have deciphered and learned something that you may not have known about the way forward for this country pertaining to its carbon credits, the way forward for this country pertaining to shanty towns, the way forward for this country pertaining to minimizing the amount of carbon we actually putting in the air and how we're going to actually cause that to slow down and then come to a halt before 2050. And that's what this show was all about. So with that, I need to say to my good old Annie Mae. Boy, Annie Mae, you can roll me out now. I forget to say Annie Mae, good night. But Annie Mae's still listening. Annie Mae, good night to you, honey. Tell your girls hello for me. You know how we roll. You 90 and going strong, and I'm just so happy every time I talk to you and every time you send me those voice notes that, you know, you give people like me hope. So you just keep doing it the way you do it. And to all of our lovely listening guests for the night and for any other night and for nights to come, Tuesday nights to come, I say thank you so much for listening to Maritime Matters and keeping us on the map. And with that, I want to thank my lovely producer. Hey, that pretty, but he look a little handsome. That's the Craig Gibson. And our sponsors again, Bahamas Maritime Connection. We also got who? One-on-One Pharmacy. We got Bimini Pilots. And if you want to sponsor us, please come on and we'll have you too. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I say, as always, Maritime Matters out.